Hi, this is Dr. Jose Saldivar with the First Year Experience podcast. Today I am joined by
Alan Earhart, Director of International Programs and Partnerships.
Lizette, Leal, I'm the International Program Specialist.
Awesome. So I've asked our guests in today to talk about some of the opportunities available to our students to do study abroad and sort of the importance, what does it mean that our students have this opportunity and what are some of those opportunities? So actually, first I want to know, what do you all do? What do you do? Mm-hmm. So Lizette, maybe you can start us up.
Yeah, I want to hear what you say that we do.
So I think like the main purpose like for students is mainly like the study abroad opportunities that we offer. So we do short-term and long-term study abroad. I think there's a general like lack of awareness of what study abroad is. Students can actually do study abroad long-term and keep their financial aid package while doing study abroad. There's also a lot of funding opportunities. So right now I'm really pushing personally Gilman because I think our student population really benefits from it. It's really tailored to our students. So they're looking, it's a federal funding, but it's for low-income students, first-generation students, students who otherwise would not be able to study abroad. I know Hispanics statistically are 3 times more likely to get it. So it's up to traditionally $5,000. And if the program has a language component of one of the identified languages, it can be up to $8,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so we just started kind of promoting that last year. And like we had a slow start to it. So this year we're trying to get more students to get it. We also have institutional funding from our office that's provided by the what fund?
It's called the International Education Fee Scholarship. So it's student fee money that we get, a very small fraction of that money. So yeah, it's so, like $90,000.
But that's also a lot of money. That's also
sounds like a lot, but when you have 200 people applying, it goes pretty quick. Yeah.
So we have that institutional funding, and then we have this is the first year we have the study abroad club. So that's been phenomenal. I think I know like our works one of our work studies, Omar, he's our president, and the treasurer also works with us.
And you're the advisor.
Yeah, and I'm the advisor. So I mean, they've been really kicking butt, like hosting events for students to promote their programs, but at the same time giving them opportunity to fundraise for their program costs. So basically, whatever they fundraise, like the club will pay for from the membership fees, and then all the profit is going to be directly to that student. So whatever I fundraise is going to be directly to my program cost. Wow. So it's very like self-driven, like how depending on how much you put into it is how much you can raise. Wow. And on top of that, it's a really close-knit community of support because a lot of the members have actually done study abroad in the past.
So you shared a lot of information. I want to walk us back a little bit because you started out with short-term, long-term. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a student, I want to study abroad. What are my options? When can I do it? Mm-hmm.
So you can do it whenever you want. Short-term programs are typically faculty-led programs, and those take place in the summer. Okay. These are programs that are led by UTRGV faculty. You're going to be joined with other UTRGV students. So it does have that comfort for students. There's no like credit transfers or anything to worry about. Administratively, there's no difference for your financial aid or anything of that sort. It's the same as if you took a class here in Brownsville or whatnot. In terms of long term, that could be anything from a semester up to a year. Oh, wow. And so that can take place whenever you want. I mean, you can right now start an application for the fall. The deadline is in May. And that can be, like I said, for a semester up to an entire year.
And so that one, you said the short term that's led by a UTRGV faculty member. For the long term, would that be through an outside institution?
Currently, we don't offer that right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'll jump in. So the long term, we really want to start pushing it more, just because, like, I studied abroad for a semester when I was a junior in college back in 1992, and I think that you do have a really good experience when you go abroad for 2 weeks. You know, it can be really, really enriching and good for your career and change your perspective on everything, including, you know, the Valley and UTRGV in America, but long term, you really get a chance to completely, or at least partially, immerse into the culture. And so we have a number of exchange agreements with partner institutions around the world. And so you can go to a university in France and take a full semester load there and keep all of your financial aid at UTRGV, because what happens is you pay tuition at UTRGV. So the only thing that you'll have to pay when you go to France is, of course, your airplane ticket and your life. So you pay for housing and food and all that, but you don't have to pay tuition, right? And we have we have a bunch of them all over the world. And those are opportunities. But students could also just decide, I want to go to the University of, I don't know, Cairo or something, and we could help them set that up, even if we don't have an active exchange agreement. So students can really do anything. We can tailor whatever they want.
So even if the agreement doesn't exist, but I wanted to study in another country, you could still.
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
We
do that.
Yeah, with the paperwork, to make sure that the credits get transferred, and so the students have a guarantee that unless they deviate somehow from the credits that they put that they were going to take, that they will transfer, so they won't have to be wondering am I taking all these classes and then I'm going to go back and they're not going to transfer. So that's something that our office does, and we also do the international agreements with universities, so that's another service from our office.
Just off the top of your head, any idea how many agreements you guys have?
Yeah. I just looked at the list. I think it's about 50, but
wow,
not all of those are also student exchange agreements. So some of them are just general. We call them MOUs, or agreements of cooperation. So they're very general, but of the active student exchange agreements, we have about 8 or 9 right now, and some in China, France, Spain, Russia, Austria, Switzerland.
Wow. Short term, those that are led by UTRGV faculty, how many programs are we talking there?
This year we created about 30 programs. Our office, it's not my office, it's the Deputy Provost's office, but they send out an email to faculty. And I'm actually going to do this in about a week, saying we're now accepting proposals from faculty for UTRGV faculty-led study abroad programs for summer 2019. We're accepting proposals until April 15th, and there's a whole packet that the faculty can use to do this. And so last year we got about 28 proposals, and we accepted all 28 because that's about our capacity in our office to do this, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because we have to find places for students to live and excursions for them to go on, and it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So we created about 28 to 30, and I think when the dust settles, because we're enrolling and recruiting students right now, probably we'll have maybe 14 programs actually go, and that's pretty typical. It's hard sometimes to get students to go on certain trips.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be good. We'll probably have this year about 250 UTRGV students go abroad and study abroad, including short term and long term.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Alan, you talked about some of the benefits, right? If I'm a UTRGV student entering freshman, why should I think about studying abroad?
Well,
especially if I'm thinking about one I just want to graduate, right? I'm thinking about what my students say. I just want to graduate, right? I don't want to have to take any extra classes. I can't afford it, right? Give me your sales pitch. Sell me on going.
Well, I would say you can't afford not to do it. Because we're creating programs that are relatively inexpensive, right? And again, like Lizette said, you can keep your UTRGV financial aid. What study abroad does for you, apart from the fact that it's really interesting to go and live in a foreign country that you've never been to, and maybe even pick up some of the language, you're getting international experience. In a lot of our classes, we have one in international project management to South Korea, led by a professor from UTRGV who also happens to be Korean. And they go and visit corporations based in South Korea, like Samsung, and then they work on some international marketing management project. And so that is real life world experience that you're getting actually in the country. And so my point is that that's going to separate you from other job applicants, especially if you're an engineer. If you have some international experience doing something related to engineering, that's probably what you're going to talk about in your job interview. And, I can sit here and say this, but there's actually empirical evidence that students that study abroad wind up making more in like the first 5 years of their professional career, probably because they're getting better jobs, maybe with international assignments and things like that. That's probably why, but...
That's a good selling point.
Yeah. And also, I think, if you're like me, I was born and raised in Southwest Washington. It was very monoculture. I'd never been out of the U.S. I hadn't really traveled much in the U.S. And then I studied abroad in Italy for a semester, and it completely changed my entire outlook on my hometown, my home country, everything. And I think that that's so important for anybody that wants, to be a professional and to be successful in their career, especially today with how small the world is.
Oh yeah.
It's extremely likely that if you work for a big corporation, that you'll get at least a chance to work on some international collaborative team.
Wow.
So if you have international experience, you're going to be better off.
Well, I'm sold. So where do I go? If I'm a student, where do I go to sign up or to get in for more information?
We're located in the 3rd floor of the Stack Building. So it's the Office of Global Engagement. We're an office under that. And so if you go through the Stack Building, the elevator to the right, that's where we're at. I know something that we didn't touch on and something that we hear a lot from our students that maybe might not be pertaining to other universities is like the lack of family support, and even like at that, like the community support, like not a lot of students have done study abroad, and so like parents are reluctant to support them because they see that as not really like part of their education, but more of like a luxury. And then on top of that, it's very like, oh no, you're staying home, so we have dealt with that, and right now we're trying to kind of support students and doing like parent info sessions, which again might not happen at other universities, but that's something that we're here to support students.
And that's certainly speaking to the students, to their reality, right? And yeah, I totally see that. And truth be told, so my junior year, I was supposed to go study abroad when I was in college, and I was supposed to go to Chile. And I was going to be flying on January 1st, 2000. And so I remember over Thanksgiving break, my mother freaked out and didn't want me flying because the planes were going to fall out of the sky, right, in the year 2000.
Oh, yeah,
Y2K. And so my mother had just, broke down, and so I didn't go.
Yeah.
And I had, a bunch of my friends went. They had an amazing time. It would have been for the long semester.
Yeah.
And that's one of the few regrets I have for college. So whenever my students ask me about study abroad, or we talk about it in class, because I always make it a point to do that, I always encourage them, how often do you have this opportunity where you get to go and study another culture and live in another country and do so without any real other outside obligations?
And that's one of my pitches that I always make too, is that you'll never have this opportunity to go and live in a foreign country with this level of freedom and the ability to just kind of explore new ideas and things. Because if you go to a foreign country for that long, you're probably going for a work assignment internationally. The other thing I was going to say is that we're also in B Main on the Brownsville campus in room 1.308 or 20. Anyway, it's right there. You can find it. And also, you can also just Google Study Abroad UTRGV, and our website is the first hit on the internet, which is utrgv.edu/IPP.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
Especially if they're for Gilman, just a quick pointer. Mainly, like the requirements for Gilman, that scholarship that was up to $8,000, is that they have to be a U.S. citizen and they have to receive the Pell Grant. which I think right now at least 50% of our student population does receive.
70%.
And that's basically the main requirements for Gilman. If it's especially somebody thinking of going into a federal position, Gilman recipients are called Gilman Scholars once they receive the scholarship. They get non-competitive hiring status within government positions, so they can like apply outside of like official like hiring processes.
Yeah, I think like internal only candidate positions and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And our track record is that you have a better than a 25% chance of getting thousands of dollars to study abroad. And you only have to write basically a page and a half, 2 pages, and we can coach you on what to put in the document.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So if any student wants to like find out more information, we do host workshops for that. Even though it's not an institutional scholarship, we're totally committed to supporting students and applying. They can send me their essays if they want feedback on. I am the advisor for the university. So any students that have any questions, they can.
This is awesome. Do me a favor and just send me, if you've got any workshops coming up or info sessions, let me know.
Yeah. So the deadline is coming up March 6th, but definitely like if anyone's even considering doing it for the next cycle, they have an early application deadline, which is October 3rd. So that's an early application cycle. So if they, for some reason, don't get it, they can actually reapply for the regular application cycle.
Really cool.
Yeah.
There's definitely time between now and March 6th.
March 6th
to get it done. Okay. I mean, you can totally get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will encourage our listeners and our students to if they're interested, to at least go see you guys and get more information, be informed about this. Long term, would you like to see the program grow? Do you want to? I mean, is there a number in your head? Like, you mentioned over 200 students.
Yeah.
Is there a number of like, I want 500 students or 1,000 students to study abroad?
So right now we're at about 250 a year UTRGV students going out, and let's see, we're 30,000 students, so that's less than 1% or something. Yeah, but if you take 250 per year, then it's probably higher than that over the 4-year cycle. So I don't know what that might be, 2% or something, but the national average is about 2%. So we're hitting the national average, but I would love to see 500 go out. And so what we're trying to do is find funding for students, and we're also trying to create really, really, really cost-effective programs. In fact, that's something that we were much more intentional this year about over last year. Last year, because I was new, Lizette was new, everybody in the office was new, we were kind of running in front of a tsunami and just kind of creating programs because we just didn't have any time left to do this. And the programs, some of them were quite expensive. This year, some of the same programs are half the price that they were last year because we've just changed the accommodation. So the students aren't staying in hotels, they're staying in youth hostels, or they're staying in dormitories at universities. Oh, nice. And so that's really, really dropped the cost, which is basically accommodation is the big cost. So I think that's how we could get to 500, is by finding funding and then decreasing the cost of the programs for the students.
Okay. Wow. Well, it sounds like a wonderful program. It sounds like wonderful opportunities for our students. And so, let us know how we can help, because I'd love to see more students get out there and experience, international travel and just get a different perspective of the valley and of the world. So.
Definitely.
Great.
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So that'll conclude this episode of the First Year Experience podcast. Make sure you listen to us on iTunes and on SoundCloud. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.